Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. My name is Sean Decker, and I'd like you to hear something. You're hearing Vtriglavica Dives by Beast Jesus, featuring my friend F. Maria Regalado on guitar and vocals. Upon listening, you may find their guitar playing as diverse and unique as their character itself. Give it a listen.
Okay, so I grew up in this place called Baguio City, Philippines. It's way up north. It's up in the mountains and stuff. And we were evacuees. We were displaced by like this massive earthquake in like 1990 or something. 1991. So we were moved elsewhere. I wound up moving to Davao City, Philippines. And I spent the rest of my early life there up until I graduated from college. So Davao was my hometown. I grew up with my mom and dad. I was mostly raised an only child, but I have an older brother on my mother's side.
They were just, your brother wasn't in the house growing up?
Not really. There'd be a couple of years where he'd be sent to my side of a family because of bad behavior or something.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, other than that, he wasn't really that present. So I really do identify with being an only child growing up.
Yeah. And how do you feel like that contributed to your desire to play music? Do you think that had a lot to do with it?
Being the only kid in the house, and my parents are fairly protective, so I never really got to visit my friends' houses if it wasn't a next door neighbor. So I never really got to go out much. So if I wanted to have fun, I'd have to make my own fun,
Yeah.
So there's TV, there's comic books and actual books, and then I don't know, the drive to make music came later as an extension of both me. I've always written stuff, I've always made short stories and stuff, and I've always done prose and poetry, and then at some point I wanted to do something that's a bit more expressive, but I wasn't really any good at visual art, and music is kind of the closest thing I could do that approximates what I want to express on a more visceral level.
Yeah.
So, I didn't even know how to play an instrument, but I'd always have arrangements for songs fleshed out. I just didn't have a vocabulary or the instrument to do it. That's until I was 15 or 16, and I started messing around on computers and stuff, and I learned how program stuff on Fruity Loops.
Oh, okay. So did you have an inclination for visual art, but you just couldn't realize it? You wanted to be able to express yourself visually with artwork, but just sounds came easier, or?
It's kind of I wanted to do everything, and I wanted to do everything on my own terms. Because for example, when I was a kid, I'd pretend I was a pro wrestler or something, and then I'd want to have I'd rehearse an intro sequence, but I'd never have any music on, and I wouldn't want to use this cool song I heard. Just it already belongs to like this show or it belongs to like this band, so I'd have to make my own.
Yeah.
So like a lot of that is just like I wanted to make everything, you know, like I just wanted to like make my own comics. I wanted to like draw the art for that too, or I wanted to make a film. I wanted to animate that too. So like eventually I did find my way to like visual art, but like not illustration, mostly like collages. That's kind of what I do now for
Hmm.
fun.
You said before that you didn't really start writing music until you were about 15, so there was no you didn't play any instruments growing up at all?
No, not at all. Like I only like started playing guitar when I was like 19, 20.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Like a fairly late. So
Okay.
there's that. And like I don't really come from a very musical family either. And like I never really had any, like any instruments like growing up. I had a neighbor who like taught me how to play a bit of bass, but like bass isn't one of those instruments you could just like play on your own unless you're like, I don't know, like Jocko or something.
Yeah, yeah. But you said your parents weren't very musical, but did they listen to music around the house?
Um, they did listen to like quite a bit of music, but like a lot of it was me going out and having to look for it by myself. So like I started listening to like actually going out and looking for music I liked at an early age. Like I was like 7 or 8, and like I remember that's when the Spawn movie came out, and like it had the sickest soundtrack, and like it was a lot of like alternative rock, metal, and like big beat mashups. And you know, like I got into like Orbital, the Crystal Method, and Atari Teenage Riot from there. And then I'd go to a record store and like, hey, do you have a Prodigy? Do you have like Orbital? And then it just like went on from there. And then you know like every now and then I'd go to a music store, I'd ask them for something, and they didn't have it, so I'd have to look elsewhere. And then I found my way to like a bunch of like nerds who'd like record stuff off of a radio, and then we'd start trading tapes and stuff, and then I don't know, it just went on from there. And like all of a sudden I'm like 13, 14 years old listening to like a Slayer and Napalm Death.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, tape tape excuse me. Tape trading was a big thing like back when I was growing up as well. We would go to skate at this Hills department store
Yeah.
parking lot, and we actually skated with like some skaters that would later become pro, like Rob Deerdeck, and
Oh shit. All
yeah,
right.
and you know, like Rob Deerdeck was like very young and just like incredibly talented even at that age. Like we were all very young, but
Yeah.
uh, but there was one kid, and I can't remember this kid's name, but this kid was like only a couple years older than us, but wore like all black, and like wore like
Yeah.
black around his eyes, and wore like fishnet undershirts and stuff. And
Wow, goddamn. That's a
he
Matrix shit.
yeah, he never skated. He just came there and like smoked
Yeah.
cigarettes, and he like we were like 10 and he was like 12, you know? And he just
Yeah.
came there and smoked cigarettes and was like, "Have you ever heard of the Misfits?" and stuff like that. And so this kid just started
Oh
giving us
goddamn.
tapes and stuff. And so yeah, the tape trading was like really cool and huge for me as well. But so I take it then, you know, tape trading, and then as you get older, and then the internet starts to flourish, and then
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
you kind of just went from there.
Yeah, totally. Because like early on, it was like at first I used to like go to this place that would like dub like dub tapes, and then eventually go on to like burn CDs and stuff, and then they'd always make these like weird compilations on it. So like some of it would be like a lot of death metal, a lot of grind, and then like some of it would be some punk stuff, and then you know, like I just like go on from there, and then like eventually we wound up with a faster internet connection, and then I'd start like downloading stuff in SoulSeek, and then it just went on from there. Yeah, that's I kind of like found like screamo in a roundabout way because like I was looking for more stuff like in Verge. Because like I remember like I was listening to like I was like 15, 16, and then I got to like into like a Jane Doe. It was like right after You Fail Me came out. Like it was I don't know like a 2004, 2005 I think, and then like I got You Fail Me, and then like I started looking for more bands like that, and then like someone recommended like Orchid, and then Page 99, and then like it just like went on from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And was that about the time when you started playing guitar?
No, like I started playing guitar like 5 years later when I was like 20 years old. Like
Oh, even
at the
later.
time though, like yeah, like at the time like I was like I actually like accidentally learned how to scream because like I watched this one episode of like I forgot what show it was. I think it was like Charmed or something. And
Okay.
there's like an episode, yeah, there's an episode there where there's like a banshee and shit, and like she gives like amazing like harrowing shrieking, and I was like all about the horror stuff growing up.
Yeah.
So like I tried to like learn how to do that whole banshee thing, and then like that's around the same time I got into like actual screamy music. So like eventually like I just like growing like looking for people who'd like to play that, and like it's mostly out of necessity that I learned how to play guitar. But like I wound up like meeting my best friend Rafael Pulgar like not too long after. So he went like, yeah, like I've known that guy since like 1998. So about like 20 years now or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so like he played in my old hardcore band, Caitlyn Bailey, and then after that, like we both like stopped playing in bands for a while, and eventually got back together to like start Beast Jesus. So, and, like I've been like playing music with a guy forever.
Awesome. So, in Caitlin Bailey, did you play guitar in that? I can't remember.
Oh, like I mostly sang, but like
Okay.
towards the end, like I was like learning how to play guitar, so. For like a couple of songs, and there's definitely a couple of songs that I wrote, and then like there are also like some songs that I made the riffs to,
Okay.
and like just like arrange everything.
Yeah. And was that your first band then?
Caitlin Bailey is it's my first serious band.
Okay.
It's like that's the first band where we actually got to like record like an actual EP. We got to like do some touring.
Okay. And
Yeah, and like I got
what was your first recording experience like?
oh, like the very first one, like it was kind of like the proto Caitlin Bailey band, and it was just like it wasn't even like a multi-track recording. It was just like a live room, and like the vocals were like in a separate booth, and like we'd all just like play at the same time, and it was like terrible. But like it is something, and like out here in the Philippines, like the whole DIY scene, like people listen to like a lot of like OG post-hardcore and stuff that would later be called screamo, but it wasn't like a very popular genre of music to play. So the most was like we had like a band that was kind of like a more direct version of Converge. This band called Sauna, but otherwise we didn't really have like a lot of emo or screamo bands, and then we were like among like the first wave of kids who who called it screamo, called it scrams, and we wanted to play that kind of stuff, and we got people into it. So I don't know, like that was like like about like over like 10, 12 years ago and stuff. So it's gone a long way since then, and like now we have like actual literal kids, teenagers, like telling everyone they gotten like a screamo through the internet, and like this is shit we would have wanted to see when we were like struggling and we all had dial-up.
Uh-huh.
That's nice, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. But you said that the recording was horrible, but I mean at the
Yeah,
time,
it was.
did you feel like it was horrible or did you feel fucking great about it?
Like it's more like we knew it was shitty, and we knew like we had a lot to learn as a band, but like it's more like at least it's something, and we're doing something about it. And like, if we're gonna do another record, it's gonna be better, and then the one we do after that's going to be even better than that. You know, so it's kind of like a part of a long line of like learning how to get our shit together. So it was terrible, and we knew it at the time, but like, like we didn't really like feel too bad about it. Like we all got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's a great like outlook to have on that, especially like if you did have your hopes like seriously high for it, I mean, when you wanted to do something for as long as you've probably wanted to do that and then it doesn't turn out exactly the way that you thought it might, it could be very discouraging, but it's awesome to hear that like, you know, you just kept going and kept going and knew that eventually you would get there because if people could take anything away from that, that should be it. Like you can get there eventually.
Yeah, for real.
But you said you did some touring in Caitlin Bailey as well. What were those tours
Yeah,
like?
but okay, so like we grew up to the south of the Philippines, and like we are an island country, so it's hard to like tour by land. So like we go on like fly dates to like the northern part of the country and like play like 3 or 4 cities there and stuff. So yeah, like we toured like 3 years, like 3 successive years. So like people up north like knew who we were, what we played and stuff. So they knew we were probably like the only active like screamo band at the time
Uh-huh.
that actually got a record down because like people were like curious and wanted to like play the stuff, but like never really had like any formal documentation of it. Like there were like bands from like 2006, 2007 from places like Bacolod or Pangasinan. Like they're like kind of far off from major cities in the Philippines. But like we knew there's proof of life, and then like at least like the seeds were there. But like we were kind of like the first like actually like get anything down. So yeah, that was it. If anything, like I think we just like helped make the style a bit more visible and stuff.
Very cool. And how were you received in these different areas, like where you're saying that it sounds like there hasn't been very much exposure on a personal level, at least like in person. How were you received by people in those areas?
Like it was always like super weird because like back home, we mostly played like hardcore shows with like we were part of a crew. Like legit, we were part of a hardcore DMS style crew,
Okay.
and we were like we were like the odd nerds who like listened to like I don't know, like we listened to like a Converge and the Locust and shit. So, and everyone else was like, we literally like we'd play shows where we'd walk in and one band plays Inside Knowledge by 25 to Life, and then the next band plays and that band also covers like Inside Knowledge by 25 to Life. Third band plays same song, so like it was that kind of environment, and like it's like super weird, and like and I do kind of miss like the early years when we first started that crew, when it was like mostly people from the punk and the crust scene, and like maybe a couple like former scene kids who wanted to do something, like that was real hardcore. So like yeah, like we all got together, made that happen, but like we were accepted, but like, it wasn't really something that was like celebrated as much because it wasn't a popular style. But like when we play a place like Manila or Laguna, there were people who were into that, and like people would like walk up to us and say like, hey, like we really really like the level playing record stuff, and like that's like bonkers to me, because like when Caitlin Bailey played our last show, it was an out of town show out here in Manila, and it was people from all over the country, like Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, like all 3 sections of the country, who were there for that show. And like everyone at that show started a band, and like most of us are like part of a Sleeping Boy collective now. So now like we put together like like Southeast Asian tours for like post-hardcore screamo bands and stuff, you know. So I don't know, like it's like there were people who really wanted it to happen, and it just needed like a little bit of a push. And that's when we found out there was an audience for it, because like we wouldn't have known if we didn't see it for ourselves.
Yeah. That
And
sounds
like
awesome. It
it
sounds
is,
like
and like
all these little places that you visited, it was like you put a pin in it, and then eventually you brought
it
all
became,
these people together in a way.
and like there was like there'd be like people from like different cities like buying the Caitlyn Bailey record, and then we'd send it to them, and you know like we'd keep on like getting invites, but like we're kind of like a really introverted nerd, so like we try to like not tour as often. Like we just tell them like, you know, like I'm really sorry we can't play there right now, but it would be amazing if you know started your own bands or like held your own shows, and then eventually like someone would like message me like hey, we're out here in this city, and like we did what you said, like we started like putting up shows, and now there are like a major hardcore festivals happening in this specific area that from which like nothing came, you know.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
and you know like even if it's like an out of town show, we didn't expect like have much of an impact, because like it was like a bill of like 20 other bands. Like it was a show in like 2009. I was like strangling some kid with a mic cable. Yeah, and like and that some high school kid who knew our lyrics for some reason, and like almost like 7 like 10 years later, this kid would wind up playing drums for Beast Jesus. Like that kid was Josh, our drummer. So I don't know, it was like super nice, like seeing all of these like internet hardcore scene people for the first time. These people you only really talk to on message boards, and then seeing that not only are they interested in the same things you like, but they're also like super passionate about it. And like years later, when you reconnect, like it's still there, and like even stronger than it was before. So I don't know, like I always have a soft spot for hardcore, because like part of me wants to be a music snob, where like if a production is bad and the songwriting's boring, if I've heard it before, like yeah, I've heard this before, it's nothing new. But like I could never discount like how meaningful something is to someone according to like their own personal experience of it. And then once I have that in mind, that kind of like overshadows everything else. It could be like the shittiest record, but if it's something that like gets you to like start something for yourself, or like do something personally meaningful, I mean like you know like that's the best thing. And like so many instances like that for me like came from hardcore. So I know, like I just like it's a love and hate thing, but mostly love.
Yeah. I feel like, music is the possibilities are infinite, but at the same time when you're in when you're locking yourself into specific genres, you're going to tread on familiar ground. So
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
definitely not, not like things can't just blow your mind constantly, but as long as like there's that visceral quality or that passion behind it, and just like you said, just somebody that's doing something like for genuine reasons, then I'll always, that always is a soft spot for me. I mean, a lot of times, like it's it's even about like what people are like outside of music that really draws me to their music.
Oh yeah, for
Like you
sure.
said,
Yeah,
where you started talking to people about oh, book your own shows and make your own band and whatnot. And I mean, I can tell you straight up that like there's there's been bands that I've worked with like on the label or just like uh personally like doing splits with my band or something. And
yeah.
it it has a lot more to do with like I don't want to say like put your money where your mouth is, like that's like a bad term, but like
Oh yeah,
just like what like talk the if you can talk the talk, walk the walk, I guess is another way to put it. It's
Yeah.
just like when I see people that are like they don't just ask people for shows, but they book their own shows, and they don't
Yeah.
just do something like half-heartedly when they really go all in. Then I'm like, I haven't even heard your band yet, but I know like whatever is going to come of that, I'm going to be in full support of, because you're really going for it, and you're really trying to like give back as much as you ask of the community or other people in that regard.
Yeah, for sure.
Once you started actually focusing on guitar, I guess, was that when Beast Jesus started?
Oh, it was a long time before like a Beast Jesus started. It'd be like 5, 6 years before we wind up becoming a band. Because the truth is I didn't really have it in mind write hardcore on guitar, because I wanted to learn how to play guitar because I wanted to play like indie pop and shoegaze.
Okay.
Because I don't know, because I always felt like twee pop historically kind of mirrored a lot of the best qualities I see in DIY and screamo. For example, Sarah Records, one of my favorite indie pop labels. It's kind of the whole cutesy imagery thing is an active refusal to buy into the whole, the whole toxicity of a lot of music that's overly concerned with being tough or being strong or having to be I know empowering yourself at other people's expense and stuff.
Yeah.
Or generally being an asshole. You could be tender, you could be vulnerable, you could be honest, and that's fine, and that's a political statement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that resonated with me a lot, because being a screamo nerd when you're surrounded with a bunch of a DMS aspirants and stuff, it's kind of alienating, and I'm looking for something I could anchor myself to, and that was it. Because I didn't have to be what I wasn't. I could be, the same person I am, and and that's fine. And that doesn't like make my involvement with music or my passion to like make my own stuff DIY any less valid. So I learned how to play guitar. I learned how to like play chords, and I started writing like indie rock music.
Hmm.
So from then on, like I just like got into like the whole guitar culture thing with gear and amps and like guitars, effects. So yeah, like I after Caitlyn Bailey folded, I moved to Manila. It'll be a while before like a Raph would move, but like for a while I played in this shoegaze band called Mount Analog, and like I did that for a while, and then like I had this solo electronic project which was up and coming but never arrived. So yeah, there's that, and then things only really reached like a critical mass when Caitlin Bailey started doing like reunion shows once the Sleeping Boy Collective was put up. So once we started like organizing actual screamo shows with bands we trusted, uh, we just realized like it might not be like the smartest thing to like try and bring back whatever spark we had when we were like teenagers and stuff, and it might be fun to like do something new. So like Raph and I started writing like new songs, and like we wanted it to like not be directly screamo, and like we wanted to just like have fun with the kind of stuff we wrote. So it wound up like our first record wound up becoming like all over the place, but like that's also what everyone liked about it. So like I guess we did something right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just kind of wanted to expand upon like several different things that were interesting to you, I guess. Um, but yeah, you were talking about your interest in indie rock, and I just kept thinking
Yeah,
about how, you know, um, like metal shredders and stuff get all this credit for being like
yeah.
incredible guitar players, etc. And like obviously a lot of them are, but I mean, like some guitarists in indie rock don't really get enough credit, like for being like straight shredders either. Like not this player in particular, but when I was learning those block party songs for those covers I
Yeah.
did, like that the guitar players in that band like actually like really shred. Like some of those were like more difficult than some of the fastest like screamy songs or whatever that I've learned how to play.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. And like we got like a lot of those like interlocking parts of like the two guitars and stuff.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a lot of fun to play too. Do you still write songs like that?
Like I'm kind of like in a weird place right now where like I'm constantly writing like dumb indie rock songs, but like I don't know what project to use it for because like my partner and I were both in this indie pop band called Tall Ice Lung, and like I back when it was a solo project, like it put out like one small EP, and then we have this record which like I've been trying to track for the longest time. I just keep on like sleeping on it, but it'll see the light of day someday. But like I don't know, like there's just something about like writing like a simple ass like indie pop song with like lyrics incredibly on the nose that kind of just reminds me of like really really ignorant grimy punk. It's kind of the same thing, but like done with different vocabularies and stuff. And like if I'm not in the mood to like write something I have to think of like like put serious thought into like with Beast Jesus, I know there's always that for me, and it's also as satisfying to be able to do that. But like yeah, like I'm constantly writing like mellower like singer songwriter stuff.
Yeah. And how does the Beast Jesus songwriting take shape that differs from the other stuff that you write? Is it just like a much longer and complicated thought process, or how does that go?
Uh, oh, it's more like I'd lay down like a skeleton of an idea for a song, and then once it's like fairly fleshed out, I could show the band, and then the band starts arranging it together. It's usually like our guitar player Raph, because like he's a genius when it comes to like writing like a lean song that has like all the important parts in it. So I don't know, he just comes from like a radically different background, because he knows how to write a song that sells. He's got like serious like actual pop smarts. So there's that, and like Kim and Enzo, our bass player, they both have like a really strong music theory background, so they could actually like make sense of all like all the noodly shit I do. Because I don't have a background in music theory. I just like pick up a guitar, and like if it sounds like it could become a song, I just record and like send it off. So VA kind of like makes sense of like whatever garbage I put out, and then there's a back and forth and a lot of creative tension, and some after the dust settles, we're left with something, something we're all super tired of, but also best represents what we wanted to express creatively. So I don't know. It's a really cerebral process for us, because it's a lot of it's a lot of like debating and like trying to justify why the section should exist in the first place, and knowing we could do better with the ideas we crank out. So I don't know. It's definitely challenging, and there's always something there which is harder than the last thing. Because we did like one record, just like a mix of everything we liked at the time. So that is the disassembly record, and then after that we just did an EP that's also just like one song. And then after that we just did like smaller songs which were iterations and ideas we wanted to like pull off at the time. So I don't know. It's all like a really fluid but also clunky, and I think that makes a band.
Yeah. So how did you go from just playing guitar out of necessity to what you would describe as noodly shit? What was your process for learning?
I just I don't really have like motivation to learn it or anything. That's why I'm by all accounts like a terrible guitar player, because I could barely keep time,
Well, let's
and
assume you're not.
well, yeah, there's that. But I just never put down the guitar, and I only really know how to play my own songs and how to write them. So that's the only thing I could do. So, and I don't know anything else. And that might be like the punk rock part of me talking, but if it's not loud, angry, evil shit that I play in a band full of nerds, then I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. So it was a lot of trial and error and self-experimentation, as opposed to like watching sweeping tutorials on YouTube, or it was just never putting it down and just constantly trying to make the sounds in your head come out of the amp.
It's mostly it's mostly just a lot of self-doubt. That's why I never bothered with music theory and trying to become an actual quote unquote good guitar player. Because I don't know, we all have that self-crippling voice inside our heads. It's just my roundabout way of going about that is, I could never be a great guitar player, but I could always just be the only guitar player I know that writes the way I do. And I don't always write the most original shit, but at least I know what I sound like, and I could write with what limited vocabulary I have. So, and I never really gave that up. And even the stuff I used to write when I was in a shoegaze band, that's still the way I write in Beast Jesus, just with more octave chords this time.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that a lot, because I have a bunch of projects, and I always I always say this is going to be just like this, or I I did an album recently that people will hear eventually, and I was like, I want to make this sound just like the Ramones, Like I wanted to make the music
Holy
sound
shit.
just like the
Okay.
Ramones. And then I went and I recorded the album, and I was like, this sounds like the Ramones if the Ramones were a screamo band. Like, no matter what I do, I leave my fingerprints on that, and I think that's charming in a way, I guess, in a way that like I can't, I'm in a way that I can't be charming other than musically. Does that make sense? I don't
It
know.
does, it does, yeah.
But yeah, so I can definitely relate to what you're saying. Oh, my shoegaze parts just, they would fit in this. They would just sound, a little bit different. And yeah, I was actually just had a similar conversation with someone else about how this was, relevant to their experiences as well. So, we were talking before about your childhood and growing up and reading comic
Oh yeah.
books, and I know that you are non-binary.
Yep.
Do you think that being an only child informed a lot of your like confidence in expressing yourself outside of like traditional gender roles in as they are known where you live, or how do you think that affected like your childhood? Like, it was there a lot of were there
Oh,
a
okay.
lot of things imposed on you that later you had to deal with and resulted in
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
You know, I was things were a lot more fun when I was a kid because everyone would just like leave me alone because like I was weird. But I don't know, like I was perfectly fine the way I was. I didn't ever once think I was a boy or anything, But like I always remember being confused whenever people would tell me like, no, like you can't sit that way, like. Like that joke on the internet about like how LGBT people you could tell they're queer because they could never sit straight in a chair.
Oh
So
yeah.
like
I've seen
yeah, so
the chair that someone actually built.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, there's that, and I'd always be confused, why does it matter how I sit? Like I'm not, I'm not really getting in anyone's way, or like if I does it matter if I speak with a certain inflection, or if like if I pirouetted every now and then? And and these are things that actually bothered me when I realized that like in a way, people policed things according to like expectations they had for for gendered activity and stuff. And like the older I got, especially through puberty and stuff, there's a lot of expectation like to perform in a masculine way, and then everyone would hype everyone up on everyone dudes who try to size women up and stuff, and all that gross sexist stuff.
Yeah.
That never really appealed to me, but I go with it because I didn't want to be left out of a peer group. So I'd go along. It's that's cute, that's sexy and shit. And it was tiring for me because I honestly didn't care because it wasn't a comic book. It wasn't any a Star Trek or Doom lore or anything. So I really didn't think about it, but I had to comply with it because that was the norm and stuff, and it just felt like a lot of undue labor, and there's a lot of frustration that I couldn't articulate because I didn't have the vocabulary for it until I was literally nearing my 30s.
No, yeah. It was later for me, probably even, but yeah, I remember when you're talking about the way you should sit or whatever. I remember one time when I was I don't know, I was a teenager still, but I was on a date with someone, and and she said that she usually decides whether she'll have sex with someone based on whether or not they cross their legs when they sit.
Wait, what the shit?
Yeah, cause I sit like that a lot. I have my my knee over my other knee, and and I was like, yo, I didn't even know we were at this fucking point of the conversation. First of all, and second of all, how does this inform your decision, in any way, but that was something that was said to me. And then another thing that popped into my head was when you're talking about male expectations, specifically someone that I always was supposed to see as a role model. One of my uncles, one time I was eating a banana, and he said that no self-respecting man sticks a cylindrical object in their mouth that way. And it fucked me up. For years, I broke bananas into pieces and ate them that way, instead of just eating a banana like you would naturally eat it, because it really fucked me up. These horrible expectations, like you said, or I don't know. I don't feel like expectations is the word I want to use, but I don't know how else to put it. So I mean, I don't know. Assuming that we're both in the area of our lives now where we can just be well, fuck all that, and just do what we're doing.
We're way past that. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
What's gonna give a fuck?
Yeah. So, did you did you come out to your family, or is this just a non-issue with you, or if you did come out to your family, what was that like?
Oh yeah, I came out to my mom. My dad doesn't know. My extended family knows, just my cousins and stuff, but my aunts, uncles, we don't, because I'd rather not do the explaining, because it's kind of a pain in the ass, with these more conservative families and stuff. And my dad's kind of a super religious Catholic guy, and also kind of guys will be dudes kind of man. So
yeah,
I just don't really think it's worth the amount of anguish I'm going to have to put myself through to have to explain that and defend my position. Because I'd rather just be live the way I want to and like be honest like everyone else. It's like I don't want to feel bad for ever. I don't want to ever feel bad for just like being honest about who I am. So I'd rather like not bring it up to my dad and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, my friends know, my mom knows, my dad doesn't. And the scene has been like super supportive of it, and like I've had like there were a couple of times where I held like LGBT plus talks. So basically, like basics on the vocabulary and like what transgender issues are, or like what non-binary identity is. So, like basically just a primer. So I used to like hold talks like that
That's
for
awesome.
like anyone who wanted to go. So yeah, it was that, and like where's that? Like that's like my number one thing. I'm really vocal about LGBT issues and stuff.
How did the you said that the community as a whole was very supportive, but
Yeah, for sure.
what kind of like questions or what kind of things specifically would come up in these talks that like people weren't like if there were things that people were struggling with understanding, what kinds of things were you helping people get there with?
Like I mostly like get messages and stuff like from people asking me like hey I always viewed myself a certain way and I don't know if there's a term for it. Could you help me out? So I'd have like people who are like younger people who are like trying to like figure themselves out, or like even people like close to our age and stuff like asking me because like the experience is always there, but like they just don't know if the terms exist for what they're going through, and like that's kind of like why I make myself like a bit more visible, because like I want people to know if there's someone they could ask and stuff, or I might not have like all the answers, but I could possibly like point them in that direction.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I mean, yeah, it's like that, like mostly for like gender issues or like mental health. I try to be as much of a resource as I possibly can, and like I only really succeed at doing that by like making people know like hey like every now and then I just need to remind all of you I am a them. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And so, I mean, because I'm assuming, like myself, you didn't really have that kind of person in your life growing up. Someone that you
oh
could,
yeah, definitely,
I
yeah,
mean, not only just on like the issues of being non-binary, because this is like something that a lot of people are only just really having the vocabulary for, like you said, but
yeah,
just just other aspects of like queer sexuality and whatnot. Like I'm, I I had no one to like talk to about these things like growing up, and it's kind of weird when you know are coming into all these things and realizing all these things, and you're kind of coming into them at the same time as
yeah,
your peers, and your peers are like your like role models or whatever. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because like it's not that it's weird that you're like giving like props to your friends or whatever for being inspirational to you. It's not that. It's
yeah,
just like you don't know, like you could you could be looking at someone else like, wow, you're inspiring me to live the way that I want to live, and they could be looking at you the same way.
yeah.
But so I don't know. Was there anyone, whether it was a public figure or whatnot, that inspired you and made you like come to terms with certain aspects that you would not be able to like understand at that time while you're
Well, kind of like yeah, kind of like the whole thing with music and like any of the nerd shit I like, I had to look for it myself.
hmm
And this is something that only really like occurred to me because in the mid 2000s, 2005, 2006. You were there, how openly misogynistic that period was for a lot of people who are like into like alternative music and stuff at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like weird to me because like I also grew up on like really really sexist spaces like 4chan. I came from 4chan, fucking 4chan. But that's also where I found my first some of my first exposures to LGBT narratives, because they'd spam some gay shit, and then like everyone's like laughing at it. Maybe I laughed at it too, but like I'd read up more about it because like I want to know.
Yeah.
And then like I'd listen to music and stuff. But like what really opened my eyes to it was like uh, listening to Botch, finding out Brian Cook is gay, and listening to Limp Wrist for the first time, and then finding out like there's so many like queer people in bands I loved and stuff, and then that's kind of like what snapped me into it because you know what, I could be like edgy forever and stuff, but I've just like over time come to learn you can only really disrespect something you don't understand. And like the more about this I learn, the less funny the jokes get, and it just reaches a point where like I just have to live out what I know. If it's and not try my best to like not live at anyone else's expense, and then and basically Botch and 4chan pointed me towards a direction of like learning what queer identity is, and recently in light of because there's a huge the bathroom debates have finally reached the Philippines again. So there's this incident regarding like a trans woman who wanted to use like a the correct like bathroom in the mall, but like a mall security sent her out, and then there's this huge conversation on social media about how trans women shouldn't invade women's spaces and stuff. So basically, like every radical feminist on my feed exposed himself as a turf for some reason. So there's that, and uh, in light of that, like I've also been reading a lot about Philippine history because pre-colonial Philippine history because like we were invaded by the Spaniards, and the Spaniards brought Christianity and Catholicism with them, and that also came with their own ideals for what gender is and should be, expectations for socialization and masculinity, and then looking into like what kinds of societies we had in the Philippines. Like if you look at like a bunch of like Philippine societies, we had three genders. We had like an equivalent to cis male, an equivalent to cis female, and we had non-binary. Non-binary people in certain parts of pre-colonial Philippine culture were regarded, like we were regarded sacred. We were typically given like village shaman roles and stuff, and that was like we were educators, and seers, like the glue that held a community together. We were a spiritual backbone of a society. And looking at that, looking at like things like the current like 2019 bathroom debates, and to think all of these rules were set in place, and like people take for granted that that's all they've ever known and they've never questioned it. But even before all of that, there was a time where I could actually be like the top shaman, educator, seer, and healer of my village instead of being a disappointment to my dad. So I don't know. Like there's so much to draw from,
Yeah.
and yeah, like the world has a rich history of non-binary people. In North America, you have the Two Spirits. In places like Indonesia, you have places like you have like the Bugis people of Indonesia. They have like around like 5 recognized genders and stuff, and and that's all stuff that would like check out if it was only being taught, and I had to like find all of this out by myself because of Bosch and 4chan. So I don't know. It's
Well,
like super funny how it plays out.
yeah, for sure. But what you were saying about about what you're reading about pre-colonial Philippines, about non-binary folks being
Yeah.
educators and shamans, and then I'm thinking back about how you have helped all these people start their own bands, and you've brought these scenes together in your where you live, and you've had the LGBT conference, like, not conference, that's not the word you use, but the talks that you've
Talks.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're still like doing those kinds of things, and I think that's really awesome. And I want to thank you for that, for being there for people like us that didn't have people like us in their lives when we were younger. And that was my conversation with F. Maria Regalado. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I think it's really great that the internet made it possible for a couple nerds like us to get to know each other. Until next time, take care and do good things.